The I Ching is a living transmission of the divine, of consciousness. The I Ching, the Book of Change, is a map of the 64 changing cosmic frequencies of life, of consciousness. This is an ancient wisdom from thousands of years ago that was used to track and harmonize with the forces of nature in order to guide the people, an empire, a civilization. In the 1960s, humanity discovered the 64 genetic codons, our DNA. Magically, they have the same mathematical formula, the same exact geometry as the 64 I Chings. Every 6 days, the sun activates one of these 64 I Ching frequencies, which activates within us a corresponding genetic codon, which stimulates our consciousness, the theme of the life. When we enter into contemplation with a particular I Ching, especially with the I Ching the sun activates each week, then life sends us the experiences we need to unlock the shadow, which raises our vibration and awakens the divine within. The intention of this video is to serve you in the highest blessed way. This is abstract energy of sensing, so receive this message with your heart and body. This week, the sun within us, our consciousness, life, activates the 22nd I Ching. The transformational path of this frequency moves us from the shadow of dishonor to the highest vibration of grace, and it's through the path of graciousness. The 22nd I Ching is one of the very few frequencies that is the real divine feminine. And I say real because the divine feminine has been misrepresented in the New Age. For me, it's not about women dressed in white dancing around the campfire. And it's not about a pro-women social revolution. And I don't have a problem with either. But it's not what I know to be the divine feminine. Let's unpack this I Ching and get a taste of the essence of the divine feminine. So let's begin with the shadow, dishonor. What does it mean to dishonor someone? What does it mean to dishonor yourself? These two questions are intertwined and forever connected. When we look at the dilemma of the 22nd shadow of dishonor, here we get the answer, the dilemma of accountability. It's all about accountability. Life is about learning to be accountable for one's own state of being. That may sound easy, but it really is a huge challenge for us humans to master. It's a challenge because at the shadow frequency, we always revert to the victim state. If we don't feel comfortable, then we immediately look for a reason, typically outside of ourselves. Typically, we blame another person. We don't take responsibility to our own state of being. We look for a reason. The point is, we're not comfortable being uncomfortable, so we deflect our awareness somewhere else, somewhere out of the present moment. And this is exactly why it's so hard for us to stay in the present moment, in the now moment. So we dishonor ourselves every time we don't accept how we feel or behave. When I say accept, I don't mean morally accept. There are things we do sometimes that are not morally acceptable, but at a deeper level, we can still accept them. We're just being honest with ourselves. In the beginning, we need to see who we are. All transformations begin with this, with accountability. We have to accept our shadows. When we think of dishonor, we usually think of it in terms of how we might behave towards others, or how others behave towards us. But really, dishonor is always about how we behave to ourselves first. We dishonor ourselves every time we blame anything for anything. Because there is no fault. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. We just have to be honest about it. The 22nd I Ching is all about human suffering. It explores the very root of human suffering. In our individual energetic design, our individual birth chart, each of us have one of the 6 human core wounds represented. They're repression, denial, shame, rejection, guilt, and separation. None of them are wrong. We manifest them over and over again in life. It's a cosmic deal we made before incarnation. They're the raw material for our transformation. Let's take guilt, for example. Is it wrong to feel guilty? Because often we're told that it is. But what if we've done something terrible? Then maybe that guilt is a natural part of our evolution, our process. Perhaps it's right. It must be right. Same with shame. We're told never to be ashamed. Well, perhaps we need to feel shame sometimes. Maybe if we've harmed someone, we should feel shame. We are dishonoring nature if we don't feel that shame. The point is, all feelings are journeys, and our suffering is a journey, and we need to begin with knowing that we must honor it, honoring how we feel, by allowing the sensations to be felt and witnessed. We must honor dishonor on some level. The word accountability is a funny one because it's similar to accounting, an accountant, to numbers. We need to see the numbers for what they are, just numbers. Our suffering is just like that. Our issues are just like that. They are what they are. We need to be honest with our own nature, the honoring of the pattern itself. It's what begins the process of transformation. We have to remember the programming partner of the 22nd I Ching is the 47th I Ching, and it's the shadow of oppression, which is all about our junk DNA, our karma, the issues we bring into this lifetime to move through, our sacred wound, our path to awakening. It either oppresses us or frees us, one or the other. Are you going to do your accounting or avoid doing your taxes? Will you honor the process or dishonor the wound you carry by avoiding it? The core wound that we incarnate with, we manifest it over and over again. It cries out over and over again for our attention, for our awareness. We just need to learn to let it in, to accept how we feel, to be with it as long as needed. All that is needed is self-honesty. We have to learn to face it. We have to deal with it. We have to be accountable for our behavior and for our feelings, for our thoughts and for our self-judgment. And then we have a chance of letting go of the self-judgment. It's a process of awareness, that's all. Contemplation really helps us see things more clearly. It gives us the space, the pause necessary to see the issues in front of us. If we don't stop and create the space to observe, how will we ever see the patterns that we keep manifesting? So sit with this. So for example, you're in a relationship, your partner's really feeling down, and they're projecting their state of being onto you. And then you get defensive and reactive because it's an injustice and it has nothing to do with you and you know it. But still, you're not being accountable. If you knew deep down it wasn't connected to you, you wouldn't be defensive or reactive. You would be compassionate, and at the very least, you'd feel sad for them. You wouldn't get entangled into their state. You see, it's not so easy to be accountable for our own state because our own issues get entangled with the issues of others. This is the dilemma, and this is what inner work and contemplation is all about, emotional accountability. The 22nd gift, the way to alchemize the shadow and raise the vibration, graciousness. This 22nd gift will save life. It will save anyone, anywhere. After all, it's the path to grace. It's so beautiful, so practical, and so simple. Graciousness is somewhat of a lost quality, and yet when seen or experienced, it's a quality hard to forget. Graciousness, it's about how we treat ourselves and how we treat others. Graciousness is not just politeness and courtesy. It's a whole cocktail of noble qualities. It's very purified, and most of the time it's subtle because it's an attitude carried in our aura, and it's rooted in our deep love and respect for all of life. Gracious people are quite rare in the world. If you know of such a person that's truly gracious, that's someone worthy of contemplation. It's all rooted in our ability to be accountable. When we are accountable for our aura, for our chemistry, for our emotions, then we move in such a clean way in the world because our accounts are all settled. We stop creating karma. It takes time to get clean in this way. You first have to get to know the patterns of your own wounding. You must disentangle your reactions from the reactions of others. And this is what contemplation does. It gives us the space to see what really is going on around us on an emotional level. And let's be clear, this is all about the emotions. The 22nd I Ching is the great emotional valve. It's rooted in our solar plexus. The great word for this gift is soul. So this is the gift of graciousness, and it's the gift of soul. Soul is when we begin to emanate the quality of our essence. It's the purification of our emotions. At the shadow frequency, emotions are nothing more than turbulence. They disturb us deeply, and we're caught up in the battle between pleasure and pain. But when our essence, our soul, really begins to shine out, we even let go of the need for pleasure, and then we become grateful for whatever life brings. And that is another quality inherent in graciousness, gratitude. When we feel grateful to life, to being alive, it's because we're so aware of death and our priorities are transformed. As we let go of the need for pleasure, we let go of pain. These two are forever linked. It's not that they ever go away. They don't. We don't move desperately from one to the other. We become more accepting to life and its rhythms. It's what graciousness brings us. We are no longer a victim of pleasure or pain cycles. We begin to rise up and our frequency lifts us. We feel calm and composed. To live a life with calmness is to live life lightly, but at the same time deeply. It means you're deeply aware, but deeply calm at the same time, with inner peace. The 22nd I Ching is the master frequency, the master code to all of the human wounds. Graciousness is the process of bringing grace into form. Graciousness invites grace. Graciousness doesn't exist without challenges. It thrives with challenges. Life will always go on testing our graciousness. It needs to be tested so we can purify it, move deeper into it. How graciously do you treat yourself? How graciously do you treat others? It doesn't mean you have to like everyone, but it does mean you allow them to be who they are. Graciousness carries a kind of cosmic kindness within it. When we're gracious, we often hold back from saying things we might have said otherwise because we don't want to hurt the other person, and we realize it's not necessary. And it's not that we become holy when we manifest graciousness. We're still human like everyone else, but we have learned how to treat people because we've deeply learned how to treat ourselves. A lot of deep forgiveness has been healed. So we treat others with kindness, the kind of kindness we have learned from being kind to ourselves. We don't allow our issues to be tangled up with others' issues, and we stop judging ourselves, and we no longer judge others. So as we enter deeply into contemplation of our own issues, of our own agenda, of our own wounds, we learn how to be gracious. We learn to be careful without being fearful. We learn to be warm without being overbearing. We learn to be honest without being cruel. It's a balancing act at the gift frequency. It's the transformational field in which we get purified. And it's all because we have learned to stop dishonoring ourselves on the deepest of levels. The 22nd city, the highest vibration, grace. What is grace? Grace is a spot in time, a moment that life lifts us up when we have fallen. There are moments of grace. We've all experienced these spots of time, these magical moments of the soft touch of grace. It's worth contemplating these moments. Grace comes as a tribute, as a gift given to us that opens us up to other possibilities. These moments, these spots of time, they're not to be missed. They're to be savored and to be allowed to mature inside us because they're the stepping stones for a higher life. And the more grateful we are, the more often they appear. So grace can be many things to many people, but it's also the same to all people. It's a state of being that transcends suffering, which is the ultimate meaning of grace. How and when is to be determined. The more we pause and listen, the more grateful and gracious our spirit becomes. The more of these moments of grace we have, until one day we just vanish, dissolve into the essence of grace, of consciousness, the essence of the divine feminine, which is always available to the one who loves deeply enough. I empower this week to create space, get to higher awareness, notice your thoughts, feel all the sensations fully that come up in the body this week. Shine the light of awareness to your honor, to how you're honoring and accepting how you feel and behave. Breathe in, breathe out. Remember, love yourself and choose to be blessed.